Hey guys, I am Ian K, and in this video I just wanted to showcase the team that I personally used to beat Bommal the Dreadhorn on Hard Doom Tower Stage 90. So I'm not showcasing any new or different comps here. I am just using a standard the resistance comp with decreased accuracy because I have those champions already built. I don't have any of those niche champions like Fogoth or Master Butcher built, so I didn't want to invest resources in building those champions. So I was just using the champions that I already own. So I'm just gonna showcase the run that I recorded here. So these were the champions that I use. I'm using Wurlim for decreased accuracy, Vizier to extend debuffs, um, Brogni, Shirimani, and Rector. So I'm just gonna have the run go quickly. So the first waves of the rounds are just really just full auto. I just let the champions do what they do. But then later on the second wave, when the mobs are almost dead, I have to like manual it to make sure everyone have their skills on cooldown. So I have Duchess here mainly for obviously the revives and healing and the revives and healing that she provides, as well as the increased resistance when champions are under veil. Then Brogni is here actually for damage. So I had Melga in place of Brogni for like additional healing and revives, but I found that without with a Melga, my comp, as you can see, it have no damage at all. I don't have poisons, I don't have HP burn. So it's all entirely dependent on the War Master proc. So the team ended up lasting incredibly long, which just kind of give more room for failure. So if, for example, any of the debuffs get resisted, Vizier doesn't extend the buff enough, the debuffs enough, then my team just end up dying. So here is so we enter the boss fight right away with all our skills off cooldown. So the most important thing to do that I think for this comp is that you have to have Wurlim and Vizier be faster than the boss. So the boss has 250 speed, so Wurlim has about 253 speed, and he goes first. Then Vizier goes second at about a little under Wurlim, but still above Bommal. So what has to happen here is that Vizier needs to extend the debuff on Bommal, the decreased accuracy and decrease uh, well, not really the crit damage, just mainly the decreased accuracy. So he has to extend it. So if I found that if he doesn't extend it, the run will pretty much fail because you kind of have to like uh, cycle around to Wurlim's decreased accuracy again. But by that time, the boss already does all his bombs and stuff, so you just end up failing. So you have to keep restarting until Vizier extends the decreased accuracy debuff. And one thing to note is that I tried to make this team work plenty of times with an unbooked Vizier, but I kept failing and failing, and then I was forced to book Vizier, and that was kind of the difference maker in making the run successful. So yeah, I managed to extend once, but then I was lucky to get a counter attack from Vizier from the bomb to extend it again. So the the debuff stayed. So Shirimani is here for freezing the bombs. So she has an AoE freeze, and her A1 also freezes, which will come in handy later on in the run because her AoE freeze is on a 5 turn cooldown, I believe, so it's quite a long time. So in the later rounds, her cooldown will not sync with the bombs dropping. So I need to get lucky to A1 the bombs to freeze them. Yep. So again, and now it's pretty much just manualing their A1s to the boss. So I have to keep manualing Vizier's A1 to keep on extending the decreased accuracy debuff. So I am not using his A2 yet, but the A2 will also be an important part of his skill. So what I did was I tried to A1 until um, I got at least 5 turns debuff durations on the decreased accuracy, and that is when I used the decrease his A2 to place the decreased attack and block buffs, debuffs, so that I have a chance to extend those as well. So I found that in my previous runs where I didn't get to place these 3 buffs as well, the run also kind of failed. Like it snowballed. The run made it was too difficult and I couldn't last and defeat the boss. So I kept restarting until I was able to increase the duration of the decreased accuracy, place the decrease attack block buffs as well as extend all these debuffs. And that was the key for this successful run. So now that I have all these three buffs, I have to keep extending them, then just kind of manually uh, dwindle down the boss with like War Master procs. Yeah, I don't have any debuff damage debuff here, so everything is done from War Master and Giant Slayer, which makes the run kind of extremely difficult. If you have like a Badal or a Eurogrim, it will make it much easier in terms of damage. So yeah, so the best damage deal I had was the Brogni, which provided like survivability as well as damage. So the thing with like champions with Badal and Eurogrim is that they, apart from their damage and poisons, they also provide healing and survivability with their continuous heals. So that is why they are good here. So without those, I don't have those champions, so I had to use Brogni for the shields and to the reflecting damage. So as you can see, this later rounds here, I don't have the freeze to uh, freeze the bombs, so I am forced to kind of A1 to try to freeze them. As you see, without freezing, I take quite a lot of damage. I have to kind of reheal my HP. So I can't do that like a lot of times because I might not have my heal off cooldown at that point in time, and I might just die the next uh, hit from the boss. So sometimes if I don't have a freeze on cooldown, I have to try. You can see it's super low here, but I had my heal off cooldown. Yeah, so I have to try to freeze the bombs. What I'll do is I'll try to at least freeze one of the bombs so that it kind of takes the weight off my team. So I hit the bomb there again, trying to freeze it. Yeah, so Shirimani's A1 only has like a 15% chance to freeze, so it is a really low chance to freeze, but you just have to bank on RNG to uh, get you through this boss. This is only like a one and done kind of boss, like you do it once, you never want to do it again. So yeah, so this was just the one run that I had that was successful. Thankfully, I recorded it, so I don't have to do this run again. But yeah, this boss is definitely the hardest content that Raid has released ever. I had a ton of difficult time trying to get through this boss, even on stage 10 and stage 50, where I kind of resorted to building a Burungiri to solo it. And then while I was soloing and while I was climbing the floors, I had to think about a team to build. So I had to build like a Rector, 6-star her. I had to build a Shirimani as well, 6-star her. And eventually I had to fully book out my Vizier because the Burungiri solo could not clear stage 90. So yeah, so this is the run. Mainly you have to get this tree, all the debuffs up, mainly the decrease accuracy, block buffs, as well as the decrease attack up. And then once you get that, the run becomes doable. At least you can complete it. If you fail to place those three debuffs, from my experience, the run ended up just being a failure. Yep, so these are the final moments where I was so happy when I got to this point. Okay, finally bit the boss. Yeah, yeah, so this was the team I used. So damage mainly come from War Master procs, Giant Slayer procs, uh, healing Rector, healing Shirimani, did some healing. Yeah, so this was the team. So I'm gonna showcase the gear that I have on them right now. So so even though I am end game, so I am able to build my champions in high resistance, but uh, towards the last champion that I have, that I had to build, like Wurlim here, I did run out of resistance gear, so I was not able to build him with enough resistance. I was only able to get him like a little shy of 400. But yeah, so you have to have him in higher than 250 speed. So I got him to 253, and the other stats doesn't really matter as much, but you want high resistance, and he doesn't need accuracy to place his debuffs. So That's why I didn't bother with accuracy. Um, and his skills, yeah, I did max out my Wurlim from before, and these are his masteries. So you just want War Master. The other doesn't really matter, so just War Master and Defense 3. This is the gear that I'm using. So just high speed and resistance. Next I have is Vizier. So Vizier, these are his stats. Again, higher than 250 speed, but lower than Wurlim. So these are his stats. It doesn't matter with higher than 330 accuracy and high resistance. The other stats don't matter. So this is his gear. As I mentioned, I had to fully book my Vizier. Um, but I was lucky to not have any of my books hit on the third skill. So just the A1 and A2 was booked. Then his masteries, yep, just I got down to Giant Slayer where he does his damage and the defense tree to increase survivability as well as the counter attack, which as you can see helped the first wave of damage to increase the duration of the debuffs. Next is Shirimani. Same thing, just same build, high speed now. So Vizier and Wurlim have to be above 250, but the other three champions don't have to be that. They just have to be fast enough. I'd say higher than 200. Then high resistance, high accuracy to place the debuffs, and then yeah, just however much defensive stats you can get. So these are her gear. I had to fully book her. Ideally, you don't want books on her A1 since it doesn't increase the freeze chance at all. So if you're lucky to not book her, that's fine. But you want the decreased cooldown as well as the chance to freeze. Masteries, so I have her in War Master and not Giant Slayer because even though it's a triple hitter A1, the hits are random, so it doesn't always hit the boss. So for every time she hits the boss, I want the highest chance possible to proc the War Master proc, so I had her in War Master instead of Giant Slayer. Then in just the support 3 mastery, just increasing accuracy, increasing turn meter when the freeze expires, and lasting gifts to increase the duration of the continuous heal that she has. And you want to avoid Evil Eye at all costs. You don't want Evil Eye to proc to increase the boss on the first wave, because that is usually where your run will also fail if you don't have the proper defensive stats. So yep, avoid Evil Eye. Next, I have um, Rector. Once again, high resistance, all the other stats doesn't matter, higher than 200 speed, and then as defensive as possible. These are her gear. And are fully booked. Masteries. So I don't have War Master on her, just a defensive 3 mastery and this mastery to increase resistance for each buff she places, then timely intervention. What's the final champion I'm missing? Oh, Brogni. Yep, so Brogni, same thing, just high resistance, high HP, defensive stats. This is the gear that I'm using. It's booked out, except his A1, since I'm not using it for HP burn anyway. Then masteries, again, Giant Slayer mastery as well as the solidarity to increase resistance. So yeah, this is the team that I use. This is not a new team. This is just a high resistance, decreased accuracy team, and I had to admit that this is definitely difficult. It's not easy. You need specific champions to build this comp, and you need really good gear to build all your champions with high enough resistance. And I just barely made it. I managed to build 4 out of 5 champion with my level of gear. I'm not like end game, but I am end game enough. But I haven't been focusing on stocking up on resistance gear. So this is pretty much all the resistance gear that I have. So it's just enough to build 4 champions. Yeah, thank you for watching. Yeah, this is a boss I never want to do again. Hopefully, someone will find a easier comp to build, or Plarium nerfs this boss for the next rotation, so we don't have to go through this extremely difficult boss again. All right, thank you for watching. Goodbye.